infrastructure. Yeah. Hey, you here, my man? Okay. All right. Bye.
Пули. Сука.
It's been a long time since I held this way. It's been a long time. Where is the sound? 1B, okay, 1B. 2 middle. Don't know. Second, something happened.
Pit half. Да.
Need to raise their webcam.
One, two.
1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2, 3, test. 1, 2,
The
3,
fuck is
test.
going
1, 2,
on?
3, test. Doesn't make a lot of difference. 1, 2, 3, test. No, that doesn't really make a lot of difference. This MC button. No, I'm just gonna let it go. This MC button didn't do much. No, nada. I wanna play. Scott.
4% of likely U.S. voters believe it's likely that the United States will go to war with China within the next 5 years. So nearly half of voters think we're going to go to war with China in the next 5 years. How many of you think so? How many of you think we'll go to war with China in the next 5 years? A lot of yeses. Over Taiwan, primarily. All right, here's my prediction. No. No. Do you know why I say no? I don't think we're used to a country like China. I don't think America understands China. Because if you're American, you've grown up in a warrior culture. America is a warrior culture. We fight. We attack other countries. We find reasons to leave our borders and kill people. We just can't stop leaving our borders to kill people. Like unfortunately, that's who America is. That's who we are. We're fucking warriors. We go kill stuff. What is China? Now, China is super tough and, of course, looking out for their own good. And, we talk about the total war concept, that they're trying to hurt their adversaries in any way they can, etc. That's probably all true. But you don't see China starting physical wars. And I don't think that's going to change. And the reason that they don't, do you know why China doesn't start physical wars? Does anybody know? Why does China not start physical wars? Because there's no good reason to. Because they're a nation run by people who have good judgment. That's it. It's a nation run by people with good judgment. Even if you hate them, they have pretty good judgment, for what they're trying to do for their own good, etc. The Chinese government is largely engineers. Did you know that? The communist upper level people, they tend to be trained engineers, STEM type people. So you don't have a lot of crazy people there. The other thing that one of the reasons I think that Chairman Xi and China they're all mad that Biden called them a dictator, is that I would also call them a dictatorship, but they're a modified dictatorship. And what I mean is, I believe that the ruling party could remove Xi if they wanted to. I think they could. I mean, it would be a little bloody maybe, but I feel like they could. So, it's an oligarchy, right? So at the moment, they probably all get, tremendous benefits from supporting him. So they probably get lots of financial and, reputational benefits. So of course they support him. So I'm sure he has full support. But if he decided to start a war, I think that would go away right away. And I think that the Chinese ruling party, being reasonable engineering type people, would say, okay, explain how that's ever going to work out well. All right, when has that ever worked? Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. When has it ever worked? Ukraine. Give me an example where it's ever fucking worked, right? So I think that's the kind of attitude you get out of China, is if you can't tell me one case that this ever worked, don't do it. But in the United States, we don't even look at it that way. We just think we can win every war, and our military is awesome, and we better stop that. We better fight them there before they get over here, and their dominoes are going to fall. And we've always got some fucking reason that we have to go kill people in other countries. But China doesn't. China's like, how is that good for China? Tell me again how that's good for China. So I do think that China would move on Taiwan if they felt they could do it without starting a larger war. And I think that ultimately, I hate to say it in public, but nobody listens to me anyway, so it's okay. I think we would let Taiwan go if the alternative was war. I think we'd let it go. Now, of course, if I were a larger platform, if I were ABC News or CNN, I wouldn't say that. Like, I wouldn't say that out loud on a larger platform. But, among my limited audience here, I think we're talking among friends, I'm pretty sure we'd let Taiwan go. Now, I mean, it would be a gigantic fight within the United States, because lots of people would really disagree with that. But we'd figure out a way. And we wouldn't have chips, right? It would be a gigantic emergency in chips. But if it came to a war, do you know what we'd do? We'd negotiate the chips. That's what we'd do. In order for us to stand down, we'd probably have to say, look, you're going to have to transfer a bunch of this technology to us. Let Taiwan build some facilities here in addition to the ones they have. So we don't run out of chips, then maybe we won't start a war and you can have Taiwan. It's not none of our business. I think if it actually came to serious war, we would just negotiate it away, unfortunately. Very bad for Taiwan, but it's also China's problem. It's China's problem. And I have to admit, I don't hate the fact, well, let me say it a different way. China is smart to be pressuring the United States and Cuba. Am I wrong? So China is creating something to trade for Taiwan. So they're trying to build, training bases and listening bases in Cuba. And I think that's all just to fuck with us over Taiwan. I don't know that they really need those listening stations, do they? I mean, they could just put a ship 12 miles off the coast and probably get everything they want. I don't think they need the Cuban missile, listening stations necessarily. Yeah, they could use their balloons. So it feels to me like China is doing every button you can push to increase the odds that they will someday control Taiwan, short of war. And I don't think there's anything that can be gained in the United States by having a war.
I mean,
if we can
when I
get chips.
started the business, one of the things you'll find there are other sub-operators out there, but they
way for the U.S. and other, say European countries, not to be denied chips, and probably we don't care after that. They take Africa. I think the Chinese investments in Africa are going to turn out not to be the best idea. I got to feel, I've read some articles that money seems to be wasted, because they're not getting enough back. And they have access to natural resources, which is good, but beyond that, it's probably not a benefit. All right. They didn't need balloons, maybe not. Yes, so yeah, the Taiwan Semiconductor is building a facility in Arizona, but I think in terms of capacity, we'd have to build a lot more facilities. I'm seeing the suggestion here that we should already be duplicating every chip plant that's in Taiwan. Not as easy as it looks, because I'm not sure.
Grapes in hand, looking up. Music play, the fist begin.
Hello everyone and welcome to a beautiful game that just happened in the European Paris Blitz tournament. It is Shan Sargsyan, 21-year-old Armenian Grandmaster versus Young Shishov Duda. And as the title suggests, a queen sacrifice is being used to crush the London system. Now, if some of you have seen my tutorial on how to defeat the London system, I suggested for black to go for knight to f6, c5, and the immediate queen to b6. Duda throws in an additional d5, knight to c6, and then goes queen to b6, and then goes after the b2 pawn. And for those of you who have seen my tutorial on how to play against the London system, you know that sometimes it's okay to grab the b2 pawn, sometimes it most certainly is not okay to grab the b2 pawn. And here, the b2 pawn will be captured. Now let's see what happened here and why this is so incredible. And one of the problems for Sargsyan is that Young Shishov has already played this exact same game up to a certain point 2 years ago, but we're gonna discuss that when we reach it. So pawn to d4, we have knight to f6, knight to f3, and d5 now. We have bishop to f4, opting for the London system, and only now pawn to c5. We have e3, knight to c6, knight b to d2, and only now queen to b6. So going after the b2 pawn, and as usual, white very happily offers the pawn. D captures on c5. Now, either invites the queen to capture on c5, or you go after the b2 pawn like you've prepared. So Duda captures at queen captures on b2. Rook to b1, and now queen to c3. You could even capture the pawn, but the engine says queen c3 is the best move, and so everyone plays queen to c3 here. Bishop to b5, and now pawn to g6, preparing bishop to g7, castles kingside, and so on. We have pawn to e4, and now d captures on e4. We have bishop to e5, attacking the queen, and queen to a5. And here we have castles, offering the knight on f3, but as you'll see, it's not that easy to keep the material. We have e captures on f3 by Duda. Remember, this is all still theory. Queen captures on f3, and now how do you continue? You've given up a piece, but bishop captures on c6 is a pretty big problem. Point is that, okay, if black really wants, black can continue just developing. Bishop g7, then you capture on c6, but you can't capture back. This is the piece you've given back because you're already up a piece. You have to play king to f8, and after bishop captures on b7, bishop captures, you play queen captures, attack the rook moves to e8, and now knight to b3, let's say, attacks the queen, queen captures on a2, and pawn to c6. It's whether you can survive against this passed c pawn. I mean, even if you can, you're just gonna suffer for a very long time. So instead, Duda plays queen captures on b5, a beautiful queen offering. You've already captured one piece, so now you capture another one for the price of a queen. And how do you reply to this? If the queen is captured, then you grab the third piece, knight captures on e5. So maybe there's a better way. First, instead of this, bishop captures on f6. You don't want to